Chapter 63-64. I didn't expect this grass to have such a powerful effect. Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the illusory grass. The world is truly full of wonders. Granny Hua nodded. The illusory grass isn't usually used in many ways. It's the most important medicinal ingredient when you don't need the disguise pill. After taking the disguise pill, even the cultivators of the immortal region won't be able to see through your disguise for a while. However, this is also related to the other party's strength. If the other party's strength is extremely strong, then it's still possible to be seen through. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. Actually, no matter what kind of disguise, once a cultivator's strength reached a certain level, they would be able to see through it. In addition, there's another problem. The illusory grass's medicinal effect can only last for 7 days. If you want to continue the disguise after 7 days, then you have to take another disguise pill. This is also the flaw of the disguise pill. However, compared to other methods of disguise, this is already very good. Granny Hua was somewhat helpless. The cultivators of the immortal region could already be called immortals. They weren't mortals like the human eye. It was too easy for them to see through a person's disguise. Therefore, although the disguise pill's medicinal effect was short, its value was not low. This was because in a critical moment, this disguise pill could be used to save one's life. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This disguise pill is used in critical moments to escape. That's right. Granny Hua nodded and placed the illusory grass into the bamboo basket. Then she said, no matter where you are, strength is the foundation of survival. As long as you're strong enough, this illusory grass won't be needed. I hope that one day we won't need to rely on the illusory grass. Her pitch-black phoenix eyes blossomed with a dazzling luster. Even if their current cultivation was completely suppressed in the immortal region, her heart was still filled with confidence. She believed that success depended on people. Every cultivator here had grown from weak to strong. As long as they persevered, sooner or later, they would also be able to become a proper member of the immortal region. Granny Hua was clearly more interested in Bailey Hongzhuang's ability to see through the illusory grass. This is the divine ability you obtained in the upper realm? Divine ability? I know very well how powerful the illusory grass is. So many cultivators in the immortal realms were unable to see through it, but you were able to see through it. This ability is truly not simple. Only innate techniques can achieve this. Granny Hua's eyes flashed with a wise luster. The power of a divine ability is very strong. It is different from a martial skill which can be mastered as long as one learns it. However, a divine ability requires the cultivator to have a certain level of comprehension to be able to master it. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. After she obtained the inheritance of the abyss of the Sea of Bitterness, she felt that this power was very amazing. It was completely different from the ability she usually obtained. I wonder if Granny has heard of the Bitter Sea Abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Ever since she learned from Granny Hua, she found out that there was not only one upper realm in the lower realm, but there were many parallel realms. However, since Granny Flower knew about the existence of the upper realm, she felt that she might have also heard of the Bitter Sea Abyss. Bitter Sea Abyss? Granny Hua was startled. Her eyes widened in shock and disbelief. You went to the Bitter Sea Abyss? Chapter 63-65. Beichen and I both obtained the inheritance of the Bitter Sea Abyss. No wonder. Granny Hua understood and shook her head with a faint smile. The Bitter Sea Abyss is very powerful, but very few people dare to go there. You two little guys are really newborn calves that are not afraid of tigers. You even dare to go to such a place. We also found the Bitter Sea Abyss by chance. Do you know why there are so many planes but we all know about the existence of the upper realm? Is it because of the Bitter Sea Abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang said in surprise. Granny Hua nodded slightly. The Bitter Sea Abyss is a very powerful inheritance. Even the cultivators of the immortal region would want to explore it. Because the Heavenly Eye ability is really too powerful. Not only can it see through all fabrications, but it can also make the cultivator's cultivation journey much smoother. I didn't expect you to be able to obtain the inheritance of the Bitter Sea Abyss. It's really amazing. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang saw deep admiration in Granny Hua's eyes. In the past, when Granny Hua praised her, it was usually the praise of a senior to a junior. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that it was the admiration of a peer. The two were completely different. It's really too difficult to pass through the Bitter Sea Abyss. Even the cultivators of the immortal region would find it difficult to succeed. You being able to obtain this inheritance also proves your ability. Granny Hua's tone had a hint of pride. Her disciple was able to do this. Her temperament was already stronger than many people. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Granny, if you go, you will definitely succeed. However, Granny Hua shook her head. If we go, I'm afraid we won't be able to come out. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She felt that the seniors were very powerful and their temperaments must be very firm. It shouldn't be a problem for them to succeed. We old people have our own obsessions in our hearts. The longer we live, the deeper the obsessions in our hearts. Most people can't get rid of this obsessions. Granny Hua sighed. Do you know the reason why so many cultivators in the immortal domain coveted the ability of the Heaven's Eye but none of them went? That is, they know very well that even if they go, they may not succeed. On the contrary, it is very likely that they will be trapped in eternal pain. So far, there has only been one person who has successfully passed the trial. Therefore, the fact that you and Beichen were able to pass the trial is an incredible achievement, and an achievement that you should be proud of. Granny Hua smiled kindly. She was truly proud of the two little fellows. Such results were enough to make many people in the immortal domain look at them in a new light. Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Even though she also felt that it was very difficult to pass the level, she did not expect Granny Hua to give her such a high evaluation. It turned out that the upper realm also had some things that the cultivators of the immortal region had to take seriously. Unconsciously, even she felt proud of the upper realm. Old man Zhongli doesn't know that all of you have passed through the bitter sea abyss. If he knew, I'm afraid that he wouldn't continue to put on a straight face all day long. Granny Hua laughed softly. What? Could it be that Senior Zhongli also wants to go to the bitter sea abyss? Granny Hua shook her head. Among all of us, he is the most stubborn. The bitter sea abyss is a place that he will never be able to pass. Chapter 63-66. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Senior Zhongli's appearance, she thought that he had always been like this. Now it seemed that Senior Zhongli had experienced many things in the past, which led to the current change. However, thinking about it carefully, she felt that the four seniors must have some things that they didn't want to talk about in the past. Otherwise, with their strength, why would they live in seclusion in the mountains? After picking the herbs, Bailey Hongzhuang and Granny Hua went back together. Granny Hua went back to her residence, while Bailey Hongzhuang went to the place where everyone was cultivating and joined them. During these days of cultivation, everyone's life was very fulfilling. Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan also used their performance to win the seniors' favor. The four seniors were tolerant people, and seeing Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan's hard work, they were completely at ease. They had already accepted these disciples and treated them as their own people. They didn't want the appearance of others to affect the safety of their own disciples. This was the situation that they didn't want to see the most. However, there were some episodes in the process of cultivation. After a long time, it was inevitable that they would encounter cultivators from the immortal domain. Even though it had been more than a year, there were still some cultivators who came here to try their luck. The cultivators who came here weren't looking for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but like those guys, they wanted to capture people and sell the spirit devouring or to earn some money. Therefore, everyone in the abandoned immortal forest was their target. However, just as these guys appeared, Senior Yu Hong had already appeared. He didn't give them any chance to explain and directly sent them flying with a punch. In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the cultivators from the immortal domain were extremely powerful, but in front of Yu Hong, they were like little sheep without the strength to truss up a chicken. They were easily sent flying. It wasn't until that moment that they realized how terrifying the senior's strength was. Senior Yu was already so powerful, what more the strongest Senior Zhongli. I always thought that the immortal domain cultivators were very strong, but now it seems that they aren't that strong? Di Xiaofeng stared blankly at the cultivator who fell to the ground and spat out blood. Originally, he had been very careful after hearing what Bailey Hongzhuang and the others said. Cultivation was a gap that was difficult to cross. He was even more worried that if they were unlucky they would be in danger. However, Senior Yu's attack directly changed his understanding. Seeing Di Xiaofeng's confused expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't know what to say because they were just as shocked as him. Big brother Xiaofeng, it's not that the immortal domain's cultivators aren't strong enough, it's that Grandpa Yu is just too strong. Zhongli laughed. These people dared to come looking for trouble, Grandpa Yu can deal with them in one move. While everyone was still in shock, Yu Hong calmly returned. Looking at his back, Di Xiaofeng couldn't imagine that such an ordinary-looking grandfather could be so terrifying. Immortal imings immortals immortal iming eng 2. Chapter 63-67. Di Xiaofeng patted Zhong Limu's shoulder and said earnestly, "If you're not strong enough, then you'll be angered by everyone. If it was anyone else, being able to recognize one of these four seniors as their master was already a great blessing. However, Zhong Limu grew up with these four seniors and was taught everything they knew. It would be strange if he wasn't strong enough. Originally, he didn't know how strong the cultivators in the Immortal region were. He even thought that the cultivators in the Immortal region were stronger than the four seniors. At this moment, he completely understood that the four seniors were all experts and were stronger than many cultivators in the Immortal region. Zhong Limu raised his eyebrows and smiled, "I'm still too weak. That's why grandfather always scolded me. However, grandfather said that ever since I started cultivating with you guys, my strength has increased very quickly." Bailey Yanche smiled faintly. "The reason why Senior Zhongli likes us is probably because we can urge you to cultivate." "That's not what I meant." Zhong Limu hurriedly waved his hand and explained anxiously. However, when everyone saw Zhong Limu's anxious look, the smile in their eyes deepened. We're just joking. Don't take it seriously." Zhong Limu finally relaxed and scratched his head in embarrassment. Everyone liked the honest Zhong Limu from the bottom of their hearts. In the blink of an eye, a year flew by. Everyone's strength continued to increase. With the guidance of the seniors and the help of Granny Hua's pills and medicines, everyone's speed of improvement was extremely fast. Every time they returned to the D family, everyone in the family would be surprised by their increase in strength. Even Diyu Jue couldn't help but ask how they cultivated. He wasn't surprised that Beichen and Hong Zhuang's strength increased so quickly because their cultivation speed was incomparable to ordinary people. However, ever since Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan went into seclusion, he noticed that their strength was also increasing rapidly. Their previous speed couldn't be compared at all. Regarding this, everyone could only make up an excuse to fool them. And the reason for this fooling fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. With the help of Bailey Hongzhuang's medicinal pills, everyone's strength was able to increase rapidly. Fortunately, every time Bailey Hongzhuang came back, she would bring a lot of pills and potions. This was because every night when she was learning from Granny Hua, she would concoct pills and concoct potions. Even though he didn't refine much every day after accumulating day after day, the number of little drops made an ocean was still very shocking. As a result, the D family's admiration and gratitude for Bailey Hongzhuang grew deeper and deeper. Who would be able to concoct such a powerful pill while cultivating at the same time? Diyu Jue Di Lin Xian, and the other's strength also increased after taking the pills. Lan Yunxiao's group also used the pills to enter seclusion after returning from their training. In a year's time, the speed of improvement could be said to be extremely terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang had concocted such a powerful pill and medicine. Although it was only circulated among the three families, the news still spread. For a time, the entire upper realm was filled with envy towards the D family, Lin family, and Bailey family. How heaven-defying was a pill that could increase a cultivator's strength at the initial Sun realm? How many experts were stuck at the bottleneck of breaking through and couldn't make any progress for many years? Chapter 63-68. Under such circumstances, many clans immediately came to ask for medicine. For those clans that weren't close enough, Diyu could just reject them. However, for those clans that were on good terms with him, Diyu couldn't directly reject them. He had lived in the D family for so long, so he naturally had a few good friends. After these guys heard the news, they came with the idea that they would not leave until they asked for a medicinal pill. Diyu Jue was also very helpless. The most important thing was that after the first pill was given out, it would be even more difficult to refuse the next one. Therefore, even if Diyu Jue regretted it, he could only give out the smallest amount in the face of the familiar faces that longed for it. After giving it out, his heart was bleeding. His daughter-in-law had refined these medicinal pills with great difficulty, but he did not expect this pack of wolves to pester her. Bailey Hongzhuang did not know about this situation at first, but later on she inadvertently heard about it from Xia Wanrong. After hearing this, she also felt that it was extremely interesting. It was rare to see this side of her father, but these medicinal pills were indeed more difficult to refine. She also refined them every day when she was learning from Granny Hua. As for giving this to others to refine, she also wanted to. However, the alchemists in the immortal domain were already called immortal alchemists, and there were some differences with the alchemy skills of the upper realm. Unless she had enough time to guide others, but obviously she did not have such time at the moment. Even if she had learned from Granny Hua for a year, she was only a second-grade immortal alchemist. How difficult was it to cultivate a first-grade immortal alchemist? It was impossible to do it in a short time. Di Beichen was very calm about this. This kind of problem was not in the scope of their consideration, so it was better to just leave it to their father to worry about. In any case, this was the matter of the patriarch. Outside the D family, Jiang Wenyan stood there with a complicated expression, his eyes full of hesitation and entanglement. He had not seen Beichen and the others for so long. If he just came to meet them, it would be fine, but he came with a mission today. Since he was young, he had not done such a thing, so his heart was really tangled. Murong Jing's mood was also very complicated. Recently, the medicinal pills refined by Bailey Hongzhuang could be said to be very famous. In a short period of time, the news had already spread throughout the entire upper realm. Usually, his father had always been very calm, but now, after hearing this news, he was not calm at all. He directly gave him an order, asking him to think of a way to get a medicinal pill. Of course, he had come with enough sincerity and resources, but the situation was still a little twisted. While Murong Jing was thinking about what to say when he saw Di Beichen and the others, he unexpectedly saw a familiar figure at the Di family's door. His eyes suddenly lit up. Jiang Wenyan? Suddenly being called, Jiang Wenyan could not help but tremble, and a trace of panic appeared on his face. It wasn't until she turned around and saw Murong Jing that she heaved a sigh of relief. Murong Jing, why are you here? Hearing this, Murong Jing's expression froze. He looked at Jiang Wenyan's entanglement and said helplessly, we came here today for the same purpose. Hearing this, Jiang Wenyan also sighed and could not help but chuckle. I didn't think that the two of us would get together for this kind of thing. This is really amazing. Chapter 63-69. To be honest, this kind of thing is really hard to ask. Jiang Wenyan's expression was awkward. He didn't need to think to know how precious this pill was. Even if they had brought along the family's precious treasures, in essence, Hongzhuang and the others might not necessarily need it. Sigh. Murong Jing sighed, if it wasn't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have come today. The two looked at each other and sighed helplessly, feeling a sense of sympathy for each other. If possible, they really didn't want their friendship to be tainted with any impurities. Just helping each other in times of trouble was already very precious. Di Beichen, recently there have been people coming to the family almost every day. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly as she looked outside the room. Even if she didn't recognize some of the people, she knew that they should be very important figures in the family. The effect of your pill is astonishing, naturally it would have such an effect. Di Beichen clasped his hands and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to sit on his lap. This can only be blamed on my wife being too powerful. Don't just talk about me, the fame of this pill spread the fastest. However, recently the family members have been praising your arrays endlessly. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. She turned around and wrapped her arms around Di Beichen's neck. Although the family spirit gathering array is not bad, it can still be upgraded to have a better effect. Di Beichen smiled faintly. As his research on arrays deepened, the number of arrays he was proficient in also increased. These spirit gathering arrays were no longer a problem for him. In the beginning, grandfather spent a lot of money to arrange a spirit gathering array for our cultivation room. Now you've covered the entire D family with it. No wonder grandfather is praising it endlessly. Feeling the changes in the family, the two couldn't help but feel proud. Seeing the family gradually improve, their hearts completely settled. Young Master Murong and Young Master Jiang are here. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately stood up and left her original ambiguous position. Her face was flushed red. Murong and Wenyan are here? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, they are rare guests. The scene of the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly was still vivid in his mind. Unknowingly, so much time had passed. Speaking of which, it had been a long time since they last met. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of understanding, and she had already expected the general situation. We've all overlooked this problem. Now that this pill has been refined, I'm sure Murong and the others will need it. Di Beichen nodded. Indeed. As the two of them walked out, they saw that Xiren and the others had also come out. At this moment, they were chatting happily with Jiang Wenyan and the others. I've finally seen you guys. What have you been up to? Di Xiaofeng smiled at Murong Jing. They were brothers who had played together since they were young. Murong Jing's face stiffened. You still have the nerve to talk about me? I should be the one asking you what you've been up to. In the past, you often came to find me. Ever since we got married, there's been no news at all. You've really forgotten your brothers after marrying a wife. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan's face turned slightly red. She didn't think that this matter would suddenly implicate her. My Yunyan is shy. Don't make fun of her. Di Xiaofeng smiled. Chapter 6370. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan was even more embarrassed. She glanced at Di Xiaofeng. Di Xiaofeng immediately understood and said, "In the past, I was the one who went to find you. If I don't go, you can't come to find me? I'm different from before. I'm determined to cultivate properly and not be left too far behind by Beichen." Murong Jing was slightly startled. He looked at Di Xiaofeng as if he had discovered a new continent. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "Did I hear wrongly? How could you say something like that?" Di Xiaofeng proudly raised his eyebrows. "You still don't believe me? My strength has increased quite a bit recently." As he spoke, his aura quietly spread out. Murong Jing originally thought it was a joke. He and Di Xiaofeng had known each other for so long. He was too clear about the latter's character. Cultivation was inevitable. It was just that it was impossible for him to cultivate patiently. However, when he felt Di Xiaofeng's aura, he was completely dumbfounded. "It can't be? How did your strength improve so much?" "Of course. My temperament has changed now." Murong Jing and Jiang Wenyan were somewhat astonished. They had also been cultivating diligently during this period of time. They did not expect that they would be left behind by Di Xiaofeng. After thinking carefully, the two of them felt that this must be the effect of Hongzhuang's pill. However, this was not something they could be envious of. When Bailey Hongzhuang approached, she saw everyone talking happily. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but burst into a faint smile. Murong Jing and Jiang Wenyan looked at each other. Although the two of them came with a purpose today, it was obviously not good to ask in the current situation. They only hoped to find a suitable opportunity to ask in private later. If they were rejected, they wouldn't care. After all, it was normal to be rejected for this kind of thing. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next action stunned the two of them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She took out 2 white porcelain bottles and handed them to Murong Jing and Jiang Wenyan. "We were planning to look for you. We didn't expect you to come at the right time. This is a pill I recently refined. It can increase a cultivator's strength and also help a cultivator break through. I hope it will be helpful to you. As for Qin Feng, I might as well send someone to deliver it to him." Murong Jing and Murong Jing stared blankly at the white porcelain bottle in their hands. All of the entanglement in their hearts disappeared in an instant. They didn't believe that everything would be so coincidental, but it was obvious that Hongzhuang was smart enough to realize the purpose of their visit, so she took it out without them saying anything. Through this, they could also see how much Hongzhuang and Beichen valued them. "Hongzhuang, thank you." Murong Jing looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. This porcelain bottle became infinitely heavy in his heart. "Do we still need to talk about this between us?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and turned to look at her side. "Beichen, don't you agree?" Di Beichen's expression was calm and amiable. A faint smile appeared on his unparalleled face. "Back then you guys risked your lives to help. Now it's only a few pills. Why do we need to thank you?" "Yeah, you guys are too polite." Ziren chuckled. "Beichen and Hongzhuang are originally very rich. If we don't rely on them at a time like this, who else can we rely on? Learn from Ziren's shameless appearance. When he takes things from us, he's never embarrassed," Di Beichen said as he looked at Ziren in ridicule. "Beichen, are you praising me?" Chapter 6371. Murong Jing and Murong Wen listened to the conversation between Di Beichen and Ziren and understood that it was meant for them to hear. This has indeed made them feel much more at ease. However, the pill was still quite heavy. They had always known that Ziren and Di Beichen had grown up together. There was no need to elaborate on the relationship between the two, so they had never felt the slightest bit embarrassed. Even though their relationship with Di Beichen was not bad, it was obvious that they could not treat him the same way as when Ziren did. However, from the looks of it, Di Beichen and Murong Wen's attitude towards them was more or less the same as their attitude towards Ziren. This made them feel very warm. "To tell you the truth, I've come all the way here for the sake of this pill." Jiang Wenyan smiled exasperatedly. "I didn't think that you'd give it to me so directly. Speaking of which, I'm a little embarrassed." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen smiled faintly. Deep down in their hearts, they had already understood the situation. When Ziren and the others were rather shocked, but they did not take this matter to heart. Wenyan, we're all friends who have gone through life and death together. There's no need to feel conflicted over this matter. Murong Jing smiled faintly. "You're a good brother indeed. I've taken advantage of my sister-in-law's glory this time." Following Di Yujua's gift of the pill to several families, the pill's reputation has grown even more resounding. Even though everyone felt that the D family would not lie, it was still not enough for only these three families to speak up. After consuming the pill, the masters of the various large organizations had at least experienced an increase in their powers. Most of them had directly broken through the bottleneck that they had been stuck at for many years. Once this news was released, the entire upper realm was shaken. Countless people had asked for the pill, but most of them had been turned away by Jianghu. Even they did not have many of these pills, so how could they give them away so casually? Under these circumstances, the crowd could only gaze at the ocean and sigh. Being able to see but not being able to obtain was the most depressing thing. Most importantly, no matter what methods they used, they would not be able to obtain the pill. As Bailey Hongzhuang became famous again, she and Di Beichen, the immortal couple, became the target of envy of all the cultivators in the upper realm. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang brought back a lot of pills, she suggested a plan to Jianghu. Now that there were countless cultivators who wanted to get their hands on this pill, they could announce that anyone who could tell them where Xiao Shou was would be able to claim the pill. In this way they would have countless informants. It was impossible to rely on the strength of the three clans, but with the strength of so many cultivators, they might be able to find some clues. The strength of many cultivators could not be underestimated. Even if Shuyu was strong enough, as long as they were still in the upper realm, they would definitely leave behind some clues. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion, Jianghu's eyes lit up and he clapped his hands in agreement. The other two secret keys had always been a sore point in their hearts. If they could not find the secret key as soon as possible, they were worried that the situation would change. Now that they had this method, they believed that they would be able to find Xiao Shou very soon. A vigorous search began in the upper realm. Many cultivators began to search in all directions. They had been in closed-door cultivation for a long time but had not been able to break through this bottleneck. They might as well come out and look for her, hoping for a glimmer of hope. Under these circumstances, Xiao Shou's days had become very difficult. Chapter 63-72. Xiao Shou cursed angrily. Now, she only wanted to find a place to hide, but she could not even find a safe place. These cultivators were searching everywhere for them. Now, they could not help but feel nervous whenever they bumped into someone. Indeed, we can't continue like this. Shuyu furrowed his brows. He never thought that things would turn out this way in the end. The upper realm was not small, but cultivators could be found in most places. As for some places where humans were rarely seen, the living conditions there were extremely harsh. They could not live there either. As a result, they could only hide and worry about being discovered at any time. The D family wants these two secret keys. Xiao Sudong looked at the secret keys in his hand. After so many things had happened, he had become much more indifferent. Now that the D family was at the peak of their power, revenge was like a dream to them. Instead of living in hiding, they might as well hand over the two secret keys. Perhaps they might even be able to exchange it for a lifetime of peace. Most importantly, after this child was born, he felt that nothing was more important than staying alive. Once they die, what would happen to this child? Big sister, why don't we hand over the secret keys? They won't be so persistent in searching for us then. As Xiao Sudong spoke, Xiao Shou quickly snatched the two secret keys. Her expression was vicious and resolute. I can't do that. Even if I die, I won't give the secret keys to them. Xiao Shou then turned to look at Shuyu. Master, what should we do now? I believe that you'll find a way. Shuyu sighed. He was known as the #1 cultivator in the upper realm, yet he had been forced into such a situation. Initially, he could still find a family to rely on. However, after the birth of this pill, he was afraid that no family would be willing to take such a huge risk. Most importantly, the D family's combined power was enough to destroy any family. Under such circumstances, they had no other choice but to hide. If there's no place to hide in the upper realm, we can go to the crossing immortal domain. Xiao Shou's eyes lit up. If we go to the crossing immortal domain, they definitely won't be able to find us. Crossing the celestial domain is simply too dangerous. Rather than going there, I might as well stay in the upper realm. Shuyu shook his head slightly. That was a place he didn't want to go for the rest of his life. It wasn't easy for him to escape, so he really didn't want to go back. Seeing this, Xiao Shou was also somewhat unwilling. Master, if you don't want to go, you can send me and Sudong over. It won't be too late to bring Master over after we gain a firm foothold in the crossing immortal domain. Shuyu took a deep look at Xiao Shou, making her feel a little guilty. She then said, then you have to cultivate well. When you reach the standard to go to the crossing immortal domain, if you still want to go, then go. As soon as he said this, Xiao Shou's eyes lit up and she became extremely happy. Regardless of whether it was the celestial domain or the celestial domain, she would definitely go there. She would definitely find Qing Devil. She would definitely avenge her family. She would personally destroy the Di family and the Lin family. She would make Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen suffer a fate worse than death. In the abandoned immortal forest. Chapter 63-73. Today was different from usual as the 4 seniors were not here. This is the first time I've seen Granny Hua and the rest leave the abandoned immortal forest. I thought they would never go out. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the empty wooden hut. They were used to the 4 seniors being here all day. They were not used to their absence today. Granny Hua usually goes out to pick herbs. Grandpa Yu and the rest rarely go out. Zhong Limu smiled. However, something happened in the village deep in the forest. That's why they left. Actually, something like this has happened before. However, it's rare. I used to go with Grandpa, but this time, Grandpa asked me to stay here. A village deep in the forest? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes in confusion. Zhong Limu nodded. Actually, there are many people living in the abandoned immortal forest. However, the forest is too big so we rarely see each other. Before you came, Granny Hua would go there to buy some things from time to time. After passing through the abandoned immortal forest is the realm of chaos. Unlike the cultivators in the realm of chaos who would try to capture us, the cultivators in the realm of chaos would do business with us. Hearing this, everyone finally understood what was going on. Indeed, it was difficult to rely on the things in the forest to be self-sufficient without going anywhere. For example, they had to trade for spices and other things. Since you came, we didn't need to trade for things anymore. Zhong Limu smiled. In the past, when they went to trade for things, they had to bring a lot of precious herbs. However, they only got ordinary things in return. He felt that it was not worth it, but there was nothing he could do. Now that things were better, they didn't need to run so far away. So, you've been to the realm of chaos? Di Beichen's eyes narrowed. They had only heard of the name but did not know what it was like. When Xiren asked curiously, Zhong Limu, can you tell us what the chaotic immortal realm is like? Actually, I've never been to the realm of chaos. I only saw the city gate outside. That place was bustling with activity. There were many people and many carriages. The city gates towered into the clouds and there were countless experts there. I actually wanted to go in and take a look, but Grandpa didn't let me. He said that I'm too weak and will only be targeted if I go in. It's better not to cause trouble. At this point, Zhong Limu also sighed. His expression was somewhat dejected, which made him feel very dejected. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. As far as they knew, Zhong Limu had lived here since he was a child. He had never been to a city. Therefore, it was needless to say that he yearned for the chaotic immortal realm. However, just the towering city gate alone was not simple. The immortal realms were definitely more magnificent than the realm of chaos. Di Beichen patted Zhong Limu's shoulder and comforted him. Don't be sad. We will go to the realm of chaos together sooner or later. Zhong Limu smiled and nodded, his face full of confidence. Definitely. Grandpa said that if I maintain this cultivation speed, it won't be long before I can get out. Chapter 63-74. Di Beichen, what's wrong? Noticing the sudden change in Di Beichen's appearance, everyone stopped joking. Something happened to Xiao Xuanzi. Di Beichen's eyes focused, and his face that was originally like a spring breeze suddenly became gloomy. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' expressions all changed. Xiao Xuanzi usually stayed with Xiao Hua and did not cultivate with them. However, they found that under Xiao Hua's supervision, Xiao Xuanzi's strength increased very quickly. Plus, it was originally a demonic beast and lived very freely in the forest, so they did not care about it. However, something actually happened to Xiao Xuanzi. Di Beichen did not delay, and immediately rushed towards Xiao Xuanzi's direction. Could it be that Xiao Xuanzi had a conflict with other demonic beasts? Shengguan Yingying's face was full of worry. Conflicts often broke out between demonic beasts and this kind of thing had happened before. From Di Beichen's expression, it could be seen that Xiao Xuanzi's situation this time was much more serious than the last time. Xiao Xuanzi and Xiao Hua basically move around in a certain range every day, and they rarely go to other demonic beast territories. They shouldn't have provoked other demonic beasts, right? Bai Li Yanche frowned. Since the last time Xiao Xuanzi fought with other demonic beasts, he also intimidated the nearby demonic beasts. Logically speaking, this kind of thing should not happen again in a short period of time. However, since it happened, it also meant that the other party did not take his words to heart, and he would not be polite. The situation this time is very serious. Di Baichen's face was calm and worry could be seen between his brows. Xiao Xuanzi's breath is constantly weakening, the other party probably wants to kill him. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' hearts also tightened. Let's go quickly. Everyone's speed had already increased to the extreme, and only a few flashes of light could be vaguely seen, like a cool breeze, but also like they never appeared. I didn't expect this mystical fire demonic rock to be so persistent. Young Master Guo, let's just kill it directly. A young man looked at the young man in his early 20s with a flattering smile on his face. Guo Xiaojie lazily glanced at the mystic fire demon rock. Don't be in a hurry to kill it. It's rare to encounter something so interesting. Wouldn't it be a pity to just kill it? Why don't we play and see how deep this fellow's feelings for this imperial windhorse elephant are, huh? Let it go. Xiao Xuanzi looked at Guo Xiaojie coldly. Even though his breath was weak, his expression was extremely firm. Its huge body was now covered in blood. Several sharp arrows had pierced into its body, and its wings had been flipped over, making it unable to move at all. Let it go. Guo Xiaojie chuckled. Stop dreaming. It's a gift for my grandfather's birthday. You can die today. Anyway, it won't be long before it goes underground to accompany you. Hurry up and leave, don't worry about me. The body of the imperial windhorse elephant was also covered in wounds, dripping with blood. Some of the deeper wounds were so deep that the bones could be seen. Its neck was chained and it was unable to break free. Do you think it can leave? Guo Xiaojie's blade directly slashed across Little Blossom's body. The sharp blade cut through the skin, bringing out a trail of blood. Stop. Xiao Xuanzi's face turned pale as he anxiously said. Chapter 63-75. I'll give you a chance, you or it? Guo Xiaojie looked at Xiao Xuanzi with a smile, but this smile was as cold as a demon. When the men at the side saw Guo Xiaojie like this, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Guo Xiaojie's eccentric temperament made even them feel creeped out. Usually, similar things had happened many times, but they didn't expect him to be so abnormal that he wouldn't even let two demonic beasts go. If the elder needed the imperial windhorse elephant, they could have just captured it, but they had to humiliate these two demonic beasts. Rather than that, it would be better to give them a quick death, which would be more relaxing. Facing that sinister smile, Xiao Xuanzi's heart was filled with hatred. If it wasn't for its strength not being strong enough, it wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. Every wound on Xiao Hua's body was like a cut on his heart, dripping with blood. The pain on his body could never be compared to the pain in his heart. When he thought about how they might never meet again after today, he was in so much pain that he couldn't breathe. Recalling what Xiao Hua usually said to him, his strength was still too weak, and it was impossible for him to survive in the immortal domain. He never cared too much about it, and only now did he understand how important all of this was. You can torture me however you want as long as you don't touch her. Xiao Xuanzi said without hesitation. You idiot. Xiao Hua anxiously said, but tears appeared in her eyes. No matter what, they won't let me go. Why do you have to sacrifice yourself? Very good. Guo Xiaojie clapped his hands and his smile became more and more evil. I heard that the profound fire demon rock's wings taste good. Why don't you cut it off and give it to me? Ding. The dagger was directly thrown in front of Xiao Xuanzi. If you don't do it, then I can only taste its meat. Xiao Xuanzi stared at Guo Xiaojie. Okay, I'll do it. It slowly picked up the dagger and turned to its wings. After seeing Xiao Xuanzi's actions, Xiao Hua struggled with all her might. Stop. Are you an idiot? I told you to stop, didn't you hear? The dagger pierced Xiao Xuanzi's skin, but Xiao Xuanzi ignored the heart-wrenching pain. No matter how hard Little Flower tried to stop him, Xiao Xuanzi did not stop. Usually, no matter what Little Blossom said, he would listen. But this time he couldn't listen. He knew that his actions wouldn't change the outcome. At least, before he died, he didn't want to see Little Flower suffer anymore. The few cultivators at the side could not help but turn their heads away. Although they were all people whose hands were stained with blood, they had no enmity with these two demonic beasts. Yet they were being treated so cruelly. It was indeed somewhat unbearable. Demonic beasts also had feelings for each other. Even if they were humans, it would be difficult for them to do this for each other. Young Master Guo, it's getting late. It's about time for us to head back, Chu Huan couldn't help but say. Hearing this, Guo Xiaojie looked at Chu Huan unhappily. It's not far from here. We can go back soon. What's the hurry? I just want to have a taste of the profound fire demon rock's wings, especially since it was cut off by itself. How interesting would that be? Chapter 63-76. Damn it. Xiren cursed, looking at Guoxiaojie as if he was looking at an irreconcilable enemy. These damn guys, they actually injured Xiao Xuanzi and Little Blossom to such an extent. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold and indifferent. The wounds on Xiao Xuanzi's body were shocking, and the bright red blood was reflected in her eyes, igniting the string in her heart. Di Beichen didn't say anything, but the murderous aura around him was the most terrifying. His cold eyes locked onto Guoxiaojie as if he was the king of hell. Who is it? Feeling the aura approaching from behind, a cultivator immediately called out. Guoxiaojie raised his head and met Di Beichen's eyes that were filled with shocking murderous aura. Suddenly, his heart trembled and he panicked for no reason. Xiao Xuanzi and Little Blossom were slightly relieved when they saw Di Beichen and the others appear, but when they thought of the strength of these people, their hearts tightened again. These were all cultivators from the immortal region. All of them were cultivators in the Radiant Sun realm or even stronger. Even if everyone came, they couldn't shake them at all. After sensing the aura of Di Beichen and the others, Chu Huan was relieved and said, "Young Master Gua, these people should be the abandoned people." Abandoned people? Guoxiaojie was relieved, and the initial nervousness was gone. His usual complacent and disdainful expression appeared on his face again. "I was wondering who they were, with such an arrogant aura, so they're just the abandoned people." Di Beichen directly came to Xiao Xuanzi's side, and directly fed the medicinal pill into its mouth. "How are you?" Xiao Xuanzi shook its head slightly. "I'm fine, it's too dangerous here." Seeing Di Beichen ignoring his actions, Guoxiaojie was also angry and said angrily, "Did I allow you to get close to it? Your injuries are too serious, go rest first." Di Beichen's voice was gentle, but his eyes were filled with hatred. "Little Blossom, Xiao Xuanzi looked at Little Blossom. He didn't know when the 4 seniors would come back, but the other party was a cultivator from the celestial realm. If the 4 seniors didn't come with their strength, they probably wouldn't be enough. "Don't worry, it will be fine." The current situation was clearly extremely unfavorable, but for some reason, when he looked into Di Beichen's eyes, he felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Di Beichen originally wanted to let Xiao Xuanzi enter the contract space to rest. Its injuries were too serious, but Xiao Xuanzi insisted on not leaving. Knowing that Xiao Xuanzi was still worried, Di Beichen did not continue to ask. After Xiao Xuanzi regained his human form, everyone realized that the injuries on his body were even more shocking. Not only was his arm broken, it was also dripping with blood. "Who said you can leave?" Guoxiaojie saw that the other party had been turning a deaf ear to his words, and the anger in his heart burned. "I didn't think that the abandoned people of the abandoned immortal forest would dare to be so arrogant. I'll capture you all and bring you back to work as laborers." Di Beichen raised his head and looked at Guoxiaojie. "Do you dare to fight with me?" Hearing that, Guoxiaojie sneered. "Who do you think you are? Do you think you're worthy to fight with me? All of you attack." After hearing that, Chu Huan and the others didn't dare to delay, and rushed up one after another. Even if they were very disdainful of Guoxiaojie's character, they had to protect the elder's grandson. If something happened to Guoxiaojie today, they would be finished when they returned. Chapter 63-77. As long as they were cultivators from the immortal region, their strength must have reached the Radiant Sun realm. Di Beichen was originally worried that their strength might have exceeded the Radiant Sun realm, but fortunately they were still in the Radiant Sun realm, which was already not bad. Zhongli Mu also rushed up. "These damn bastards dared to hurt Xiao Xuanzi and Xiao Hua, they must take revenge." Bai Li Yanche and the rest's faces were extremely gloomy. In their hearts, Xiao Xuanzi was their family. If they had come a little later, Xiao Xuanzi's life would have been gone. Not only that, these bastards even humiliated and tortured Xiao Xuanzi. This was simply unbearable. Even if they had to risk their lives today, they must kill these damned fellows. Guoxiaojie and the rest originally did not put Di Beichen and the rest in their eyes. To the cultivators from the immortal region, the people in the abandoned immortal forest were like animals, they could not be called humans. This kind of strength was not enough in their eyes at all. However, facing Di Beichen and the rest's terrifying killing intent, their hearts could not help but tremble, and they felt an inexplicable chill. Bailey Hongzhuang did not immediately take action, but simply bandaged Xiao Xuanzi's wound. Its injuries were too severe and one could imagine how painful it was. In comparison, Little Blossom, who was not far away, was in better condition. However, Xiao Xuanzi acted as if the one who was injured was not him. He did not even frown from beginning to end. He was only worried about whether everyone could leave safely. The four seniors did not come? Xiao Xuanzi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. Don't worry, nothing will happen. She did not expect things to be so coincidental. The four seniors rarely went out and something like this happened today. Attack. Guo Xiaojie saw that Di Beichen and the rest were actually very powerful, and he was even more unhappy. Kill them. Chu Huan and the rest rushed up. Zhongli Mu directly faced one of them. Bang. With a punch, Zhongli Mu's body was as fast as lightning. You bastards, you actually dare to treat little Xuanzi and little Flower like this? I will also cripple your arms. Zhongli Mu's personality was simple, but he dared to love and hate. Once someone hurt his friends, he would never let them off. When Chu Huan saw that the youngest Zhongli Mu actually took the initiative to attack him, a trace of disdain appeared in his eyes. The cultivators in the abandoned immortal forest were all trash. If they were strong enough, they would have already gone to the immortal chaos domain. Only those who were not strong enough could only struggle to survive in the abandoned immortal forest. In the end, they were all just trash. However, with this exchange of blows, Chu Huan's expression changed. Because he realized that this brat's strength was actually not much weaker than his. How was this possible? Although his strength was the most ordinary existence in the sect, Zhongli Mu clearly looked much younger than him. To possess such strength at such a young age, even in the immortal domain, he would be considered a genius. Why would he stay in the abandoned immortal forest? Zhongli Mu did not give Chu Huan any time to hesitate. Right now, all he wanted to do was to turn all of them into minced meat. Only in this way could he vent his anger. Bang bang bang. Punch after punch flew out, and the power of the fire attribute completely exploded. Zhongli Mu's cultivation was not weak, but his strongest point was his combat strength. Chapter 63-78. Ta ta ta. Chu Huan took a few steps back. He looked at Zhongli Mu in disbelief. This guy's strength was ridiculously strong. Zhongli Mu was only a step away from the brilliant sun realm. However, Zhongli Xiaoran had always had high expectations of him, so he did not feel much about his own strength. After this exchange of blows, he realized that Chu Huan's strength was much weaker than he had imagined. This guy couldn't have underestimated me, right? Zhongli Mu had some doubts, but his attack speed was not slow at all. Regardless of whether his opponent underestimated him or not, as long as he seized the opportunity, he would take the opportunity to defeat his opponent. When Xiran and the rest faced the other three cultivators, there was a gap between their strength and Zhongli Mu's, but after cultivating for more than 2 years, their cultivation had already reached the brilliant sun realm. Even though there was still a gap between them and the brilliant sun realm, they had the advantage in numbers. With 2 people ganging up on one person, even if they could not defeat the other party could not do anything to them for the time being. The battle broke out in an instant. Vigorous essence energy waves resounded continuously. Everyone fought together, causing the earth to shake. Di Beichen turned his gaze to Guo Xiaojie. These people were abominable, but the instigator was obviously Guo Xiaojie. Noticing Di Beichen's cold gaze, Guo Xiaojie's face turned ugly. He thought that they were just some abandoned people and he could easily take care of them. However, the situation was completely different from what he thought. Because these abandoned people were actually entangled with Chu Huan and the rest? Chu Huan, you trash. You can't even defeat an abandoned person and you still want to become an inner sect disciple? Guo Xiaojie cursed. Ever since Chu Huan fought with Zhongli Mu, he realized that this young man's combat strength far exceeded the ordinary brilliant sun realm. Even he had to be careful when fighting. The slightest carelessness could cost him his life. At this moment he heard Guo Xiaojie's cursing. His mood was even more complicated. If it was not for obtaining an inner sect disciple spot, he would not have to follow Guo Xiaojie all day and be despised. Guo Xiaojie, these guys are stronger than the ordinary abandoned people. You have to be careful. Chu Huan said. Hearing that, Chu Huan's face was full of disdain. If you guys are weak, then you're weak. Why don't you admit it? You can't even defeat a few abandoned people. No wonder you want to curry favor with me. A wisp of coldness appeared in the eyes of Bai Li Yanche and the others when they saw Guo Xiaojie's frivolous appearance. As expected, this fellow was the most detestable existence. I'll show you how I kill these abandoned people. Guo Xiaojie looked at Di Beichen with disdain. Since you want to fight with me so much, I'll let you die knowing why. Di Beichen's face was cold, and the corner of his lips slowly curved into an evil smile. You can try. Bang. Di Beichen's body moved, and a ferocious fist directly attacked Guo Xiaojie. Guo Xiaojie didn't mind at all and quickly went up to meet him. Radiant Sun Stage. As the grandson of an elder, even if he was not sad about cultivation, with so many cultivation resources piled up, his strength was naturally not bad. Darkness attribute energy spread out, bringing with it corrosion and coldness. It swept towards Guoxiaojia's body like a spirit snake. Noticing that Di Beichen was of the darkness attribute, Guoxiaojia's gaze changed. It's a darkness attribute guy. You're courting death. Chapter 63-79. Di Beichen's figure was like a ghost, and the sharp sword in his hand directly stabbed out. The sharp sword light was like a divine weapon. Guoxiaojia was only a second slower, and his clothes had been cut open. Guoxiaojia's expression changed slightly. He did not expect this guy to be a swordsman, and his swordsmanship had reached the point of perfection. I have underestimated you, but I will also let you know what the strength of a cultivator in the immortal realm is. As soon as his voice fell, the aura in Guoxiaojia's body suddenly burst out, and the terrible power of thunder swept out. He flipped his hands quickly and a seal quietly appeared. Then a thundercloud appeared, and bolts of lightning mercilessly struck Di Beichen. Rumble. The sky seemed to be covered by the thundercloud, and the light suddenly became dark. Di Beichen was in the center of the thundercloud, and thick bolts of lightning with the power of thunder kept falling down. Seeing this scene, a trace of surprise appeared in everyone's eyes. It was the first time they had seen such a method. Just wait to be struck by my thundercloud into a sieve. Guoxiaojia sneered. The power of the thick lightning was very terrible. The ground was directly burned by the terrible thunder and lightning, and there were even potholes. Di Beichen frowned slightly. His body moved slightly, dodging the lightning, but all the lightning fell on him under Guoxiaojia's control. Most importantly, even if he dodged, the thundercloud would continue to follow him. Guoxiaojia could not help but frown when he saw that Di Beichen could hold on under the thundercloud. He knew his own method very well. Ordinary people could not hold on under the thundercloud for so long. This was because the thunder and lightning had a very strong paralyzing effect. Even if one could hold on for the first time, after 2 or 3 thunder and lightning attacks, the paralyzing power would slow down the cultivator. In this way there would be countless thunder and lightning falling on his body, and finally turning him into a sieve. According to his observation, Di Beichen's body had already endured no less than 5 thunder and lightning, but he did not seem to be affected at all. It was really strange. Di Beichen was very worried about the consequences of the thunder and lightning falling on his body, but he soon found that the power was not as amazing as he thought. After the body tempering in the Thunder Lake, his physique had been strengthened a lot, and he even had a certain immunity to thunder and lightning, so it would not affect him too much. The power of darkness swept out. In this dim environment, the spread of the power of darkness was difficult to notice. Just as Guoxiaojia was thinking about how to kill Di Beichen, he suddenly found that he was unknowingly shrouded by the power of darkness. Damn it! Guoxiaojia's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately flew out. He absolutely could not allow himself to be shackled by this dark energy. Otherwise it would be troublesome. How could Di Beichen let Guoxiaojia escape so easily after setting up this trap? The moment he found out, the cage of darkness had quickly closed. The power of darkness wrapped around Guoxiaojia like maggots. He immediately covered his body with the power of thunder and lightning, but found that the power of darkness was stronger than the power of thunder and lightning. Di Beichen passed through the thundercloud, and his sharp sword stabbed directly at Guoxiaojia. Chapter 63-80. Qi. The sharp sword pierced through Guoxiaojia's skin and fresh blood instantly flowed out. Guoxiaojia tried his best to break free from the dark energy in his body. After feeling the pain, his battle strength completely exploded. He quickly broke free from the dark prison and dodged Di Beichen's sword. You dare to hurt me? Guoxiaojia covered the wound on his chest. Blood had already stained his clothes red and the piercing pain stimulated his senses. No one had dared to hurt him like this since he was young. Di Beichen did not even blink when faced with Guoxiaojia's incredulous and hateful gaze. Based on this fellow's appearance, one could guess that he must have lived a life of luxury since he was young and had never suffered much. In addition to his family's pampering, he had developed a hobby of torturing others. This fellow was scum. Not to mention how many people had been tortured by him in the past. If he died today, it would be considered as ridding the world of evil. Chu Huan and the others' expressions changed when they saw that Guoxiaojia was injured. Their role today was to protect Guoxiaojia. If anything happened to Guoxiaojia, their little lives would be gone as well. Fortunately, Guo injuries were not serious, so they were slightly relieved. Hurry up and kill those fellows. I want all of them to die here today. Hearing Guo roar, Chu Huan and the others felt a chill in their hearts. Their hands moved faster and they could not wait to kill Xiren and the others immediately. However, Xiren and the others were not easy to deal with. Even if they had not broken through to the Radiant Sun stage, their battle strength was not weak under the guidance of the four seniors. However, according to their judgment, these cultivators should be weaker than the average cultivators in the celestial realm. Even the few fellows who had captured them and taken them to the spirit-devouring mine were slightly stronger than them. In addition to their advantage in numbers, they would not be able to do anything to them in a short period of time. Anyone who dared to hurt me has become a ghost in hell. Guo glared at Di Baichen furiously. I want you to suffer a fate worse than death. Cut the crap. Di Baichen didn't care. His body moved and he attacked again. Seeing this, Guo did not dare to underestimate his opponent like before. Although this fellow's cultivation was not as good as his, it was obvious that his combat strength was not weak. He was very clear about his own situation. The reason why he could have such a cultivation base was because his grandfather had piled it up with cultivation resources. Usually it was nothing. However, once he encountered those cultivators who relied on their own strength to break through, his strength was not enough. Fortunately, this fellow's cultivation level was lower than his. Otherwise, he would have lost without a doubt. Little Xuanzi and Little Blossom also breathed a sigh of relief after seeing this scene. In a year's time, everyone's strength was much stronger than before. Even if he encountered a Radiant Sun Realm cultivator, he would be able to put up a fight. Ding ding ding. When the weapons collided, elemental power exploded. After Guo became serious, Di Baichen realized that the difficulty of dealing with him had increased significantly. After all, the foundation of the Immortal Region's cultivators was not simple. Their trump cards were also very impressive. Bang! After a violent collision, both of their figures flew out. Damn it, this fellow's combat strength is actually so strong. Guo face was gloomy. He looked at Chu Huan and the others who were entangled. The other party had too many people. It was obviously not enough to count on them. It seemed that he could only use his trump card. Chapter 63-81. Suddenly, a terrifying aura that shook the heavens and the earth spread out. Noticing this movement, Xiren and the others could not help but turn their gazes. This aura was simply too shocking. Will Baichen be in danger? Di Xiaofeng looked worried. He knew very well how powerful Baichen was. However, this terrifying aura had already exceeded the scope of their strength. No matter who it landed on, they would not be able to resist it. Chu Huan and the others' expressions also changed. I didn't expect Guo to use this move. Di Baichen had been paying attention to Guo movements. He did not see Guo condensing a hand seal. In addition to the previous situation, he was almost certain that this attack was definitely not Guo own strength. As such, there was only one possibility. He had crushed the rune. There were many types of runes. Other than the escape rune, there were also various runes. Many of the runes carried a powerful attack or defense. Obviously, Guo had an attack rune. After Bailey Hongzhuang treated Xiao Xuanzi's injuries, she wanted to rescue Xiao Hua first. However, she realized that the chains on Xiao Hua's body were very strange. She could not use external force to break them. Therefore, she could only treat Xiao Hua's injuries first. If she wanted to break the chains, she would have to start from Guo body. After sensing the terrifying aura, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Baichen might be in danger. The strength of this attack had already surpassed that of a cultivator in the glorious Sun realm. They could not block it at all. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The sun was completely covered by the dark clouds, and the entire world became dark. At this moment, an extremely terrifying light suddenly flashed. It was as if countless lightning bolts had gathered together. It was so dazzling that they could not open their eyes. Most importantly, after sensing the terrifying power, everyone realized that even breathing had become very difficult. It was the instinctive threat of death. Baichen, be careful. When Xiren and the others shouted. At the same time, Chu Huan and the others could no longer care about fighting. Once such a terrifying force swept out, even they might be directly crushed into meat paste. This is the life-saving talisman that the elder gave to young Master Guo. Everyone dodge. Chu Huan shouted to the other cultivators. Everyone had expected this and their figures flashed away quickly. Guo looked at Di Baichen proudly. Although he was also very reluctant to give up this life-saving talisman, as long as he could kill this annoying guy in front of him, he felt that it was worth it. None of you can escape. Controlling that terrifying power, Guo chose to explode in the middle of everyone. He wanted all of them to die here. Di Baichen was naturally the first to bear the brunt of the attack. After realizing the danger of the situation, he did not dare to stay any longer. If such a powerful attack landed on his body, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Di Baichen's killing aura and blood aura instantly erupted. His aura had increased, and Di Baichen's speed was pushed to the limit. Bailey Hongzhuang did not dare to stay any longer. She pulled Little Blossom and quickly dodged to the side. The resplendent light magnified in everyone's eyes. Even though they had chosen to escape at the first moment, the speed of the explosion was simply too fast. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion erupted. The ground began to tremble under the loud explosion. Cracks spread out like a dense spider web, terrifying and deep. Chapter 6382. As the dust settled, the entire land seemed to have sunk into silence. The demonic beast's cries could be heard from afar. They were filled with fear and shock. Guo Xiaojie looked at the dust in front of him with a smug smile. They're just a few abandoned people. How dare they try to fight against me? They're simply courting death. It's a pity that the Imperial Wind Horse Elephant was destroyed. I have to find another one as a gift for my grandfather. Guo Xiaojie patted the dust off his body and was about to leave. However, at this moment there was a commotion behind him. Hearing the commotion, Guo Xiaojie's expression changed. He frowned and looked behind him in disbelief. This attack could easily kill a Radiant Sun Realm cultivator. There was no way these Radiant Sun Realm cultivators were still alive. Cough cough. A light cough was heard, followed by footsteps. After confirming that what he heard was not an illusion, Guo Xiaojie was stunned. Were these guys really that lucky? What kind of rune is this? Its destructive power is too great. Di Xiaofeng patted the dust off his body. Even though he dodged quickly, his face was still covered in dirt. This guy's family should have some power. Otherwise they wouldn't have runes of this level. Xiren's expression was gloomy. He was also studying runes, so he had some understanding of runes levels. This rune's level was not low. Baichen, are you okay? Bailey Hongzhuang and Little Blossom climbed out of the hole. Because she was carrying Little Blossom, Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was slower than the others. Her white clothes were already stained with blood. Once the terrifying lightning exploded, its power was too shocking. Even though it had already passed, she could still feel the numbness from the lightning. However, she was most worried about Baichen. This attack was originally aimed at Baichen. No matter how fast he was, he wouldn't be able to dodge it easily. Her heart sank at the thought of this. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Xiaofeng and the others' expressions changed. They didn't know how Baichen was doing. Baichen, where are you? Baichen? No matter how they asked, Di Baichen didn't respond at all. Everyone's heart sank at this moment. That was a terrifying attack from a cultivator at the Radiant Sun Realm and above. Even though they were only at the periphery, they were still injured. As for what Di Baichen had suffered in the center of the storm, they simply could not imagine. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't care about anything else at this moment. She quickly rushed to the center of the explosion. Her fair face was as pale as paper. Her eyes were dull and her face was full of worry and nervousness. Guo Xiaojie originally thought that with this move of his, these fellows would not be able to keep their lives. He did not expect that these fellows were really lucky and actually survived. Although he could hear that he was weak, it was obvious that his life was not in danger, which made him very dissatisfied. Logically speaking, with the power of this rune, these fellows should have all died. However, after realizing that there was no response from Di Baichen, a trace of a smile appeared on his face. It was fine if it was the others, but as long as the most annoying fellow died, he felt that it was not bad. As the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, everyone saw a large hole that was hundreds of meters wide. The cracks were densely packed like spider webs, almost forming ravines. Chapter 6383. Please enter the text. At this moment, a white figure was the most conspicuous in the deep pit. Bailey Hongzhuang was constantly digging the deep pit, worried that Di Baichen would be buried in the deep pit. Baichen, Baichen. Bailey Hongzhuang anxiously called out. She could not imagine what would happen if something happened to Baichen. Di Xiaofeng and the others had also jumped into the deep pit. Everyone looked nervous as their hands kept digging. They could not imagine the result at all. Mistress, don't worry. Since Xiao He and Xiao Xuanzi are still alive, it proves that Master is still alive. Xiao Hei could not help but say when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's worried and even lost expression. As Xiao Hei's voice fell, the nervous crowd seemed to have found their last life-saving straw, and they felt slightly more at ease. At least this proved that Beichen was still alive. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also shone. As long as Beichen was still alive, it did not matter. After Guo Xiaojie heard that Beichen was still alive, his face turned abnormally ugly. He had already taken out his trump card. If this guy was still alive, where would he put his face? At the same time, Chu Huan and the other two slowly came to Guo Xiaojie's side. In fact, after Guo Xiaojie used this move, everyone present was injured. Some were seriously injured while others were slightly injured. Di Xiaofeng and the others' clothes were stained with blood. However, they had been training frequently and were already used to being injured, so they did not pay too much attention to it. Guo Xiaojie looked at Chu Huan and the other two's injuries, and a trace of disdain appeared in his eyes. You already know what move I used, but you still couldn't dodge it. Aren't you too stupid? Chu Huan and the other two's faces were extremely ugly. Guo Xiaojie's attack, which did not distinguish between friend and foe, filled their hearts with anger. If they had not moved fast enough, they might not even be able to reply like Beichen. Where's the other person? Seeing that there was only Chu Huan trio, Guo Xiaojie frowned in annoyance. He has already fallen. Chu Huan looked ahead with a complicated expression. He remembered that after Guo Xiaojie used this move, one of the men on the other side immediately took control of his junior brother and used him as a shield. Thus, junior martial brother lost his life just like that. Hearing this, Guo Xiaojie was slightly stunned, and then the disgust in his eyes became even stronger. What a piece of trash. The others didn't die, but he did. Young Master Guo, what should we do now? We should at least bring him back for a proper burial. Forget it, he deserved to die. Keeping a guy like him alive is a waste of food. What's the point of bringing him back? Chu Huan was slightly startled. Young Master Guo, this isn't good, is it? What's wrong with that? Guo Xiaojie retorted, if I had known that you guys were so weak, I wouldn't have brought you trash out today. Just the few of you can't protect me. When I get back, I'll ask my grandfather to kick you out. All of you are trash. Hearing Guo Xiaojie's curses, Chu Huan and the other two's faces were extremely gloomy. They were all seriously injured now and endured the pain to curry favor with Guo Xiaojie. But what they got in return was such an insult. Originally, if they left earlier, the matter would have been resolved. It was Guo Xiaojie who insisted on staying here and caused so much trouble. Now that a junior brother had fallen, Guo Xiaojie did not feel the slightest bit of guilt. Chapter 6384. Hongzhuang, I'm fine. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to collapse, suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind. Hearing this voice, everyone in the deep pit turned their heads and saw Beichen's figure slowly appear from behind. Although his clothes were also stained with blood, it could be seen from his face that his injuries were not serious. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed a sigh of relief and sat weakly on the ground. Her tense heart was finally put down. Guo Xiaojie had always believed that Beichen was bound to die. Even if he still had a breath left, it was just a struggle at death's door. However, although the guy in front of him was also injured, he still had a graceful appearance. He was not even as embarrassed as the others. How was this possible? Guo Xiaojie was completely dumbfounded. Not only him, Chu Huan and the others stared at this scene in a daze, their minds full of question marks. They couldn't understand how Beichen escaped from such a terrifying attack. Beichen, Ziren looked around carefully and said, how did you escape just now? Isn't this speed too fast? Beichen helped Bailey Hongzhuang up, his eyes full of love. It happened so suddenly. I happened to make a small escape talisman a few days ago and just crushed it. Everyone understood that a few days ago, they did hear that Beichen was studying this. The small escape talisman and the escape talisman had similar effects, but the small escape talisman's teleportation distance was not far, off and around. Although the escape talisman only had the effect of escaping, it had always been extremely precious because it could save one's life at a critical moment. But at the same time, it was very difficult to make an escape talisman. Just this small escape talisman was extremely complicated to make. So far, this was the first small escape talisman made by Beichen. It seems that the effect of this small escape talisman is good. In the future, when I encounter this kind of situation, the effect will be great. Ziren's eyes lit up. Although the wounds on his body caused him to grimace in pain, he was still looking forward to the effects of this escape talisman. When Guo Xiaojie and the others saw that the other party had directly ignored them, their expressions turned extremely ugly. However, when they heard Di Beichen's words, their minds went blank. What did they hear? How could the abandoned people make their own escape talismans? How was this possible? Even in the immortal region, divine symbol masters were extremely rare existences. How could they have been abandoned? Little Blossom, how are you? Xiao Xuanzi quickly rushed to Little Flower's side. Although Bailey Hongzhuang took Little Flower away immediately, she and Little Flower were both injured. However, Little Flower's injuries were not light to begin with. Now his injuries were even more serious. In his line of sight, Little Blossom had already turned into a young girl. She was different from the imperial wind-horse elephant's muscular body. In her human form she was very thin. She was already covered in wounds and her face was pale. I'm fine. Facing Xiao Xuanzi's worried look, Little Blossom shook her head. However, after saying this, she could not support herself and fainted. Little Blossom, Little Blossom. Xiao Xuanzi looked nervous. Bailey Hongzhuang checked Little Blossom's condition and said, although Little Blossom's injuries are very serious, they are not fatal. After going back and recuperating, she will get better. Hearing this, Xiao Xuanzi was a little relieved. The hatred in his eyes when he looked at Guo Xiaojie became more intense. Chapter 6385. For a moment, everyone's gaze turned to Guo Xiaojie again. This selfish guy only had eyes for himself. He couldn't see anyone else at all. Noticing everyone's gaze, Guo Xiaojie was also flustered. He had already used his most powerful trump card, but it did not have any effect. They even lost one of their people. Even if Di Beichen was injured, the other party had the advantage in numbers. They obviously did not have the slightest advantage. Little Xuanzi, wait until I catch this guy. I'll let you and Little Blossom vent your anger. Di Beichen's eyes were cold. He saw everyone's injuries and it was all because of this guy in front of him. Guo Xiaojie could not help but take 2 steps back and hurriedly said, the 3 of you block them for me. I'll go back and get reinforcements first. Chu Huan and the other 2 who were already disappointed, were even more disappointed after hearing this. Asking for reinforcements at a time like this? Not to mention whether or not someone would really come, even if someone really did come, they would probably be dead by now. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' gaze also fell on Chu Huan and the other 2. Although they had been searching for Di Beichen's whereabouts in the deep pit, they had also heard Guo Xiaofeng and the other 2's words clearly. Speaking of which, these guys' lifelines must have been grasped by Guo Xiaofeng. Otherwise they would not have been scolded by this guy and not dared to talk back. It was really sad. I originally thought that the cultivators from the immortal region were amazing. In the end, I was still scolded like this and did not even dare to talk back. A trace of disdain flashed across Bailey Yunyan's eyes. This was the first time she had seen a cultivator from the immortal region. Before this, she had always been full of yearning for the cultivators from the immortal region. However, after seeing today's situation, she realized that it was very different from what she had imagined. If she had to cower and live in such an aggrieved manner after going to the immortal region, it would be better to stay in the abandoned immortal forest. It would be more carefree. Bailey Yunyan's voice was not soft, causing Chu Huan and the other 2's faces to turn red. Thinking about it carefully, they had worked so hard to come to the immortal domain, all for the sake of having a better future. But ever since they had joined the sect, what had they been doing? He was ordered around by Guo Xiaojie all day long, doing all sorts of random things every day. Even the time he had to cultivate had decreased. When Guo Xiaojie saw Chu Huan's group of 3 still standing on the spot without moving, he couldn't help saying, "What are you guys still standing here for? What are you waiting for?" The 3 of them looked at each other. The grievances that had been accumulating in their hearts for a long time exploded at this moment. Even if they escorted Guo Xiaojie back safely today with his temperament, he would definitely complain to the elders. At that time, not only would his chances of becoming an inner court disciple be slim, his status in the sect would be even worse, and he might even become a laughingstock. After all, it was a joke that they couldn't even defeat the abandoned people. Guo Xiaojie. Chu Huan slowly raised his eyes. There was a trace of determination in his calm eyes. Did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? How dare you call me by my name? Guo Xiaojie was displeased. Motherfucker, do you really think you're so great? If your grandfather wasn't an elder, a guy like you would have died God knows how many times. Chapter 6386. Zhang Wenqing, you better remember what you said. When we go back, I'll ask my grandfather to kick you out. Guo Xiaojie was also enraged. These few pieces of trash actually dared to challenge him today? You don't have to kick me out. I'm not going back anyway. Zhang Wenqing's face was full of resentment. God is really unfair. I don't want my life today. You're going to die here anyway. Chu Huan, the two of you can't be like him. Guo Xiaojie also realized that his current situation was very bad. Once everyone chose to give up, he would definitely lose his life here. As long as the two of you can help me block these guys, I promise to promote you to intersect disciples when we go back. If they had heard Guo Xiaojie's words before, Chu Huan and Chu Huan would have done so even if it meant risking their lives. However, after experiencing all this, how could they not see that all this was just an excuse from Guo Xiaojie? Guo Xiaojie, you don't have to say these things. We've already seen through it. Chu Huan's face was cold. He didn't know what he had been doing all day. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Guo Xiaojie, who had been abandoned in the blink of an eye, and were a little surprised. This change was really fast. How hateful is Guo Xiaojie? No one is willing to help him now. Xiao Hei's eyes were full of ridicule. This guy deserved to be in such a situation. Shengguan Yingying frowned. Maybe these guys realized that they're not as strong as us, so they changed their minds at this moment. It's just for a way to survive. Everyone nodded slightly. This kind of situation happened a lot in the face of a great disaster. However, Guo Xiaojie was really too annoying. Di Beichen's figure flashed and directly attacked Guo Xiaojie. This guy was really scum. Bang. Two fists collided. Guo Xiaojie took a few steps back. After realizing that Chu Huan and the other two were really not going to attack, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He turned around and flew back quickly. This place wasn't far from the immortal region. As long as they escaped from this area, they would definitely bring the people from the sect to kill all these people. Guo Xiaojie is the grandson of an elder of the Shenqing sect. Once he escapes, I'm afraid it will be very troublesome, Chu Huan suddenly said. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others took a glance at Chu Huan. However, they did not say anything. From the conversation between Guo Xiaojie and the others, they had a rough idea of his identity. This indeed made them apprehensive. No matter how weak Guo Xiaojie's strength was, since his grandfather was an elder of the sect, his strength was definitely not weak. In that case, they had to eliminate the source of the problem. They absolutely couldn't leave behind any future troubles. Vigorous essence energy exploded. Di Beichen pushed his speed to the limit and caught up with Guo Xiaojie's pace. Let me tell you, my grandfather is an elder of the Shenqing sect. If you dare to kill me, my grandfather will definitely kill all of you. There was a hint of panic in Guo Xiaojie's voice. However, as long as you let me go, I can pretend that nothing happened today. Hearing this, Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. If that's the case, then I'll have to kill him. Only a fool would believe such words. Seeing that Di Beichen attacked without even thinking, Guo Xiaojie could only use all his skills to deal with it. Chapter 6387. Xiaofeng, don't we need to go ahead and take a look? Bailey Yunyan looked at Di Xiaofeng, who was guarding Chu Huan and the other two, with a trace of worry in her eyes. Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. Don't worry, that guy's foundation is unstable. Although he's in the Radiant Sun realm, he's no match for Beichen and the others. Besides, Beichen isn't the only one who went. He should be back soon. Bailey Yunyan nodded. You're right. Beichen and Hongzhuang have always been very strong. Di Xiaofeng turned to look at Xiao Xuanzi and Xiao Hua. He frowned slightly. Compared to Beichen, he was more worried about Xiao Hua and Xiao Xuanzi. After a short period of bandaging, Xiao Xuanzi's wound had split open again. The injury on his arm was very serious, but he was still hugging Xiao Hua. Even if he wanted to say something, he couldn't open his mouth when he saw the two of them like this. Noticing Di Xiaofeng's gaze, Bailey Yunyan also turned her gaze. Little Xuanzi just stared blankly at Little Flower's appearance. His head was clearly lowered, so his expression couldn't be seen, but Bailey Yunyan felt a deep sadness. Xiao Xuanzi had always been very cheerful, but they had never seen him like this before. There was an unprecedented feeling of unfamiliarity. Bailey Yunyan inexplicably wanted to break this sad atmosphere because she felt that this wasn't suitable for Xiao Xuanzi. However, she couldn't move her feet, because she didn't know what she could say. Di Xiaofeng could understand Xiao Xuanzi's feelings. The deeper his feelings for Xiao Hua, the more intense the pain of not being able to protect the woman he loved the most. This kind of emotion couldn't be changed with just a few words. It depended on his own thoughts. Not long after, Di Beichen and the others returned. After realizing that Guo Xiaojie wasn't there, Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but ask curiously, "Where's Guo Xiaojie? Has it been resolved? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. It's settled. As she spoke, she turned her head to look at Xiao Xuanzi. I think Beichen has already used the most suitable method to punish Guoxiaojie. However, if you have any ideas, you can carry them out. The things that Guoxiaojie, this kind of scum, had done were really heinous. Therefore, when it came to punishing him, there was no mercy at all. Once Guoxiaojie dies, the elders will immediately find out. Chu Huan suddenly said, Elder knows that we came to the abandoned immortal forest today. I advise you to leave this place immediately. Otherwise, once Elder comes, it will be a disaster. He's not dead. Di Beichen said coldly, Xiao Xuanzi, I've made Guoxiaojie fall into an illusion. He will be in endless pain. With his strength, he won't die in a short time. What do you think? As Di Beichen's voice fell, Xiren and the others also understood. This kind of punishment was scarier than death. For a guy like Guoxiaojie, he must have done countless bad things in the past. Once he fell into an illusion, it would be like a nightmare that would trap him and he would be unable to extricate himself. In addition, this guy wasn't a strong-willed person. Under such torture, it wouldn't take long for him to completely go crazy. Beichen, this method of yours is really powerful. Chapter 6388. When Chu Huan and the others heard Di Beichen's words, they were confused. They didn't understand what they were talking about. An illusory realm was not something that could be easily created. One moment it was a small escape talisman and the next moment, it was an illusion. Even the experts of the immortal region weren't good at these things, but when they came out of their mouths, it was as if it was a simple matter. They couldn't believe it, but the other party didn't have the need to boast in front of them. So, everything became more meaningful. Xiao Xuanzi raised his head and looked at Di Beichen. He said, I believe you. He believed that his master wouldn't let Guoxiaojie go so easily. Now what he wanted the most was to see Xiaohua get better quickly. Then what should we do with these three guys? Xiren looked at Chu Huan and the others. These three were Guoxiaojie's lackeys. Although they changed their stance at the last moment, no one knew if it was really a change or if they were forced to do so. These guys also forced Xiao Xuanzi and Xiaohua. In my opinion, we should just kill them. It'll be neat and tidy, Sheng Guaningying said. Zhong Limu had been staring at these three guys, not giving them any chance to escape. If they showed any signs of resisting, he would immediately take care of them. Ling Er nodded slightly. The other party had lost their fighting spirit and didn't have the mood to continue fighting. Although their cultivation wasn't as good as the other party's strength wasn't really that strong. In fact, if Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang broke through to the Radiant Sun realm, even if the other party had more people, it would be difficult to control them. I don't understand. Zhong Limu was puzzled. Didn't they say that cultivators who can enter the immortal region are all quite strong? Other than those who were born in the immortal region, cultivators who relied on their own strength to ascend are all very strong. However, these guys are all in the Radiant Sun realm, but their combat strength is much weaker than the people I met before. Even Nailan Fu, who captured them and sent them to the spirit-devouring mine, was much stronger than these guys. I don't understand this either. Bai Li Yanche shrugged. If all the Radiant Sun stage cultivators in the celestial realm were this strong, then it wouldn't be long before they set off for the realm of chaos. Chu Huan and the other two had ugly expressions on their faces as they listened to the other party's blatant conversation. Most importantly, the other party wasn't deliberately taunting them when he said those words. Instead, he was seriously thinking about it, which made it even more awkward. Our original strength was indeed not weak, but ever since we joined the Shenqing sect, we became Guoxiaojie's followers. Being ordered around by him every day to do some messy things, not only did my strength not improve during this period of time, on the contrary, my combat strength has become worse. Chu Huan sighed. Originally, he had never thought about this problem. He only felt that he still had a long life ahead of him. Even if he wasted 2 years, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, he didn't realize that cultivation was like sailing against the current. If he didn't advance, he would fall back. Only on the brink of death did he finally understand this problem. What was the use of all this? You're interesting. You like answering questions so much? Di Xiaofeng looked at Chu Huan with interest. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't want to answer any questions at all. Chu Huan looked up with a calm expression. I only ask that you give me a quick death. Chapter 6389. Xiao Hei's expression was icy cold. When it thought of the previous scene, it felt its hair stand on end. It was extremely furious. I suggested it, but it was useless. At this moment, Xiao Xuanzi glanced at Chu Huan and said, they were also controlled by Guoxiaojia. Forget it. He was very clear about the previous situation. From the beginning to the end, it was only Guoxiaojia's idea. Hearing Xiao Xuanzi's words, a trace of confusion appeared in everyone's eyes. They only felt that this was really not in line with his style. After such a thing happened, only by killing the other party could they truly vent their anger. Chu Huan and the other two were a little surprised. They were already prepared to die, but they did not expect Xiao Xuanzi to say such a thing. Di Beichen took a deep look at Xiao Xuanzi. As the master, he had a certain understanding of Xiao Xuanzi's character. It seemed that today's matter had affected him greatly. Since Xiao Xuanzi has already decided, you can leave. If we find such a thing in the future, we will not let you off easily. Chu Huan and the other two were a little stunned. They only felt that the other party was deliberately playing with them. In the next moment, they bowed deeply, their faces full of shame. We are really sorry. We will definitely not do such a thing in the future, and we will not return to the Shenqing sect. If we say half a word about what happened today, we will definitely die a horrible death, Chu Huan said with a serious expression. Di Beichen ignored them and left with Xiao Xuanzi and Xiao Hua. Chu Huan and the other two stood on the spot until the other party left. The three of them had a guilty expression on their faces. Chu Huan, what should we do now? Zhang Wenqing was at a loss. They had worked hard for so many years and finally found a place to stay in the celestial region. Now, they definitely could not return to the Shenqing sect. Something had happened to Guoxiaojia. If they returned, only death would await them. We can only return to the celestial region through the chaotic celestial region. If we leave from here, we will definitely be discovered. At that time, we will not be able to protect our lives. Although the chaotic celestial region is very dangerous, there is still a chance of survival. Chu Huan's eyes were once again filled with determination and faith. We have to find our original selves. What's the point of cowering all day? You're right, it's better for those people to be free and unfettered in the abandoned immortal forest. Even if we can't do it, we can just stay in the abandoned immortal forest. Zhang Wenqing had also gotten over it. In the past, he had always thought that the abandoned immortal forest was filled with useless trash. Today he realized that he had been a frog in a well. There were many geniuses here. After rushing back to their residence, Bai Lianche said, "Those guys didn't follow us. It seems that they are truly repentant. They actually have no other choice. Going back is a dead end," Bailey Hongzhuang said. When Xiren sighed, "Right now, I feel that this immortal domain is actually quite difficult to survive in. It would be better for us to learn more skills before we go out and explore. Otherwise, if we end up like them, that would really be..." "Hongzhuang, how's Little Blossom?" Bailey Hongzhuang fed Little Blossom a pill and said, "Little Blossom's injuries are very serious, but most of them are external injuries. Her foundation hasn't been harmed. However, the power of these chains is a bit strange. They absorbed Little Blossom's essence. In addition to the previous explosion, Little Blossom also suffered internal injuries." Chapter 6390. Everyone nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang had already explained the general situation. Although the injury was serious, as long as she was still alive, she would be able to recover in a short time. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes turned slightly, and she looked at Xiao Xuanzi on the side. His wound was still bleeding, but his eyes were always on Xiao Hua's body. His eyes contained too much pain and worry. "I'll deal with Xiao Hua's injury. Di Beichen, you help Xiao Xuanzi." Di Beichen's medical skills were still lacking compared to Hongzhuang's, but he could already deal with ordinary injuries skillfully. After all, his master was different, so his learning speed was naturally much faster. "Big brother, how are your injuries?" Di Beichen looked at Di Xiaofeng and the others. In the previous fight, everyone was injured. "It's fine." Di Xiaofeng waved his hand. "These injuries will be fine after taking some medicine." Di Beichen nodded slightly. Usually, everyone was often injured when they were cultivating. Everyone had pills on them. Ordinary injuries could be healed quickly after taking the pills. "Xiao Xuanzi, Hongzhuang will take care of Xiao Hua here. You go back to your room and rest first," Di Beichen said. Xiao Xuanzi looked at Xiao Hua and said, "I want to wait here for her to wake up. Xiao Hua's essence is damaged. She won't wake up for a while. I'm afraid it'll be tomorrow when she wakes up. Your injury is also very serious. If you don't deal with it properly, don't tell me you don't want your arm anymore?" Di Beichen frowned and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry. Xiaohua will be fine with me here. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and her face was full of confidence. I promise you that when you wake up tomorrow, you'll see Xiaohua safe and sound. Facing everyone's gaze, Xiao Xuanzi was a little unwilling, but he still nodded. After Xiao Xuanzi and the other men left, Bailey Hongzhuang took off Xiaohua's clothes and dealt with her wound. Bailey Yunyan and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but feel sorry for him. The wound that was dripping with blood was a ghastly sight. The girl's perfectly fine skin had turned into such a state. Just by looking at it, one could imagine how painful it was. That Guishaojia is really abnormal. The imperial wind horse elephant's body isn't outstanding among demonic beasts, but it's not like a human that can easily break through it. Little Blossom's injuries are so serious. It's obvious what kind of torture she went through before we arrived. Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with reluctance. Now that she thought about it, she felt that she should have ruthlessly stabbed him with a knife. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Shangguan Yingying looked indignant. Hongzhuang, you just used an illusion on him and didn't let him suffer any physical pain. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's agitated look, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and said, Xiao Xuanzi and Xiaohua have suffered so much, how can Beichen let them go so easily? Don't worry, Beichen has already done what you want to do. Once she said that, Shangguan Yingying finally showed a relieved expression. Now that you said that, I'm relieved. Otherwise, when I think of that guy's appearance, I can't wait to rush over and stab him twice. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully dealt with Xiaohua's wound. Even with the effect of pills, these injuries still needed half a month to recover. Fortunately, they arrived in time today. Otherwise, they would have to suffer for the rest of their lives. Chapter 6391. Little Xuanzi's taste is really good. Little Blossom is very beautiful after transforming into a human. Shangguan Yingying looked at Little Blossom's appearance. Previously, the situation was very dangerous, so she didn't have the chance to look carefully. Now that they stopped, she finally saw Little Blossom's true appearance. She was really a beauty. Actually, Little Blossom should also be good-looking among the imperial windhorse elephants. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She had seen a few imperial windhorse elephants before, but they weren't as good-looking as Little Blossom. Shangguan Yingying was a bit surprised. You can even see that? Different races, but I think they all look the same. Speaking of which, Guishaojia didn't go back today. That Xianqing sect's elder should be coming to the abandoned immortal forest to look for him. When the time comes, will he find us? Bailey Yunyan's face was filled with worry. Just from Chu Huan and the others' description, she could tell that the elder wasn't someone easy to deal with. Once he knew that his beloved grandson had turned into a fool, he would definitely fly into a rage. We've already done our best to clean up the traces. In addition, Guishaojia has already turned into a fool. What can we get from him? Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes revealed a pondering look. She wasn't very clear about the methods of the immortal region's cultivators, but they had indeed done everything they could. If they could still find them in this situation, then even if Guishaojia died, the other party would definitely be able to find them. Granny and the others don't know when they will come back. We have to be prepared. The other party could appear at any time. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was serious. To be able to become an elder of a sect, his strength was definitely not simple. The immortal region's experts had many methods. They couldn't be sure if the other party really had the ability to know everything. For the entire night, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were cautiously looking around, worried that danger would appear at any time. Fortunately, the situation wasn't that bad. When Granny Hua and the others came back at dawn, everyone was completely relieved. Granny Hua and the others just came back and saw the courtyard full of people. They were a bit surprised. What? We only left for a day and you guys miss us so much? Yu Hong joked. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had been worried the whole night. Only after seeing the four seniors did they heave a sigh of relief. Their mood was extremely good. Senior Yu, we were already looking forward to your return as soon as you left. Come on, you little fellows are acting so strange today. Something must have happened, right? Although Yu Hong liked to joke, he was also very smart. Even though he had just returned, he had already noticed that something was wrong. What happened? Zhong Li Xiaoran asked in a deep voice. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others recounted everything that had happened. This kind of thing could not be covered up and there was no need to cover it up. Moreover, Little Blossom and Little Xuanzi were still lying in bed to recuperate. After hearing the whole story, Yu Hong couldn't help but say, "Isn't this too much of a coincidence? We just left and something like this happened." You little fellows are really unlucky. Everyone looked at each other. In fact, they also had the same feeling. You guys handled this matter pretty well. The other party shouldn't be able to find you. Chapter 6392. Senior Hua, if we kill him, will that elder see the scene before his death? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of the same thing that happened when they first went to Penglai Island. It brought them a lot of trouble. That's right. For those old fellows, this is a basic method. Hua Shukang nodded and said, if you go to the immortal region in the future, you have to pay attention to this. The immortal region of chaos is slightly better because the cultivators who go there usually don't have any status or background. It's fine to kill them. However, when you face people with power, you have to be careful when dealing with them. Granny Hua quickly said. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked as if they had learned something. They definitely wouldn't forget it in the future. Are Little Blossom and Little Xuanzi's injuries serious? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. They were tortured by Guishaojia. Their injuries are very serious. They need to be nursed back to health. I'll go take a look. Granny Hua slowly walked into the house. After saving Little Blossom had been following her. Although Little Blossom didn't stay by Granny Hua's side every day, she would come to accompany Granny Hua every once in a while. In the past, whenever Granny Hua went out to gather herbs, Little Blossom would always accompany her. It was only when Bailey Hongzhuang went out to gather herbs that Little Blossom stopped following her. Hence, the relationship between the two was very deep. You handled it well. Not long later, Granny Hua came out with a satisfied look in her eyes. Grandpa, did you guys get anything this time? Zhongli Xiaoran's expression was gentle. We didn't get anything this time, but we will soon. What do you mean? Half a month later, there will be a gathering in the abandoned immortal forest. At that time, everyone will bring their own things to barter. Are you guys interested? Yu Hong said with a smile. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes lit up. There's a gathering in the abandoned immortal forest? Hua Shukang nodded. Actually, there's one every year. It's just that we weren't interested in it before. However, the things on this gathering will be good for you guys, so you can go take a look. Grandpa, isn't the gathering in the immortal region of chaos? Is it in the abandoned immortal forest this time? Zhong Limu felt a little strange. He had never heard his grandfather mention this before. There is indeed a gathering in the realm of chaotic immortal. However, those guys have always been deceiving people. The abandoned immortal forest also had its own market, where many precious herbs would appear. However, because everyone needed daily necessities, there was not much that could be traded at the market. But this year is a little different. The heavenly fruit has matured. Yu Hong's lips curled into a smug smile. The gazes of Zhongli Xiaoran and the other two also softened. Heavenly fruit? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. She had never heard of such a fruit. You all know that the cultivators who ascend to the immortal domain are all at the Radiant Sun realm. You've already seen 2 cultivators from the immortal domain, and both of them are at the Radiant Sun realm. Don't you find it strange? Hua Shukang smiled faintly. Everyone looked at each other. In fact, they had long felt that it was strange, but they just couldn't figure it out. After ascending to the crossing immortal domain from the Radiant Sun realm, Chu Huan and the other 2 must have been there for quite some time since they were able to enter the crossing immortal domain and join a sect. Chapter 6393. Could it be that the inability to break through has something to do with the fruit of destiny? Di Beichen asked in a low voice. Yes and no. Zhong Li Xiao said. After the Radiant Sun realm is the elementary immortal realm. Only after breaking through to the elementary immortal realm can one be called an immortal. The gap between a human and an immortal is not something that can be easily crossed. It is extremely difficult to break through to the Radiant Sun realm. Who knows how many cultivators are stuck at the Radiant Sun realm, unable to make any progress. Some are even unable to break through for the rest of their lives. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' expressions changed slightly. They had guessed that breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm would be extremely difficult. However, after hearing all this, they realized that it was far more difficult than they had imagined. Back then, when we were trying to break through to the Radiant Sun realm, we also spent a lot of time. Therefore, if you are stuck at this stage for too long, there is no need to be anxious. The gap between a human and an immortal is definitely not simple. Crossing it means being reborn. As for the fruit of destiny, it will be of great help to your breakthrough. Hearing this, everyone realized the importance of the fruit of destiny. Since it was so difficult to break through to the Radiant Sun realm, treasures that could help in breaking through were extremely important. Master, the fruit of destiny has such an incredible effect. It must be extremely valuable. Can we exchange for it? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was serious. They had to exchange for such an important fruit no matter what price they had to pay. Granny Hua smiled faintly. If it were anyone else, it would indeed be difficult to exchange for the fruit of destiny. Fortunately, we have some friendship with that fellow. As long as we take out something that he likes, it shouldn't be a problem. Granny Hua, then what is he like? Zhong Limu's face was filled with curiosity and worry, but we don't have any precious treasures here. What does the abandoned immortal forest lack the most? What we lack the most is not other things but living resources. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. A guess surfaced in their minds. It can't be that easy, right? So, the few of you should make a trip back to the upper realm and buy all the delicious and fun things you can find there. When the time comes, make him happy and this matter will be settled. Yu Hong looked at the group of juniors with a face full of smiles. You guys are really lucky. This heavens will fruit takes a long time to ripen. You guys are lucky to have encountered it. Although the seniors spoke casually, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood that the seniors must have done them a favor. The fruit of heavens will was so precious that if it was sold in the realm of chaotic immortals, it would definitely fetch a shocking price. It was definitely not something that could be exchanged for with these simple things. Thus, it was all because of the 4 seniors that he had this opportunity. Thank you, Master. Everyone bowed, their faces full of gratitude. Since you've already called me Master, there's no need to be so courteous. Being able to complete your apprenticeship earlier is what we want to see the most. After learning of the situation, they did not leave immediately. Instead, they waited for another 2 days. Xiao Xuanzi and Little Flower had already woken up. Although their injuries could not be completely healed in a short period of time, it was obvious that they could already move. The next step was only a matter of time. Chapter 6394. As soon as they returned to the upper realm, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying went directly to the Emperor Cloud City and bought all the things they thought might be useful. Cultivation resources were very expensive, but these daily necessities didn't cost many spirit stones. Di Baichen directly sent people to look for some interesting things. Mo Yunjue and the others didn't stay idle either. They kept thinking about what the senior might need. When they thought of something, they directly made a list and handed it to Di Baichen. The Di family's manpower was very efficient, needless to say. Therefore, it didn't take long for a lot of interesting things to be collected. Di Yujue was a little surprised when he learned that Di Baichen and the others suddenly began to collect these things after coming out of seclusion. However, they didn't take it too seriously. Perhaps it was because they had been cultivating for a long time, so it was normal for them to want to fiddle with new things. At this age, it was indeed boring to just cultivate all day long. After staying in the family for a few days, Di Baichen and the others felt that they were almost ready. These were all the things they needed in life. Other than that, they really couldn't think of anything else. Looking at the things in the storage ring, Xiren couldn't help but say, "The things we prepared are enough to build a new house. These should be enough, right?" Listening to Xiren's words, everyone felt the same. They had already bought everything they could. Some things that they thought were good were bought more than one set. Other than that, they really couldn't think of anything else to buy. It should be enough. Di Baichen responded. In fact, the other party is mainly looking at the friendship of the 4 seniors. Our things don't have much meaning. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Anyone would know that such things were simply not as valuable as the fruit of heaven's will. In the end, what they owed was the kindness of the 4 seniors. In fact, there is some meaning to it. Look at how powerful the seniors are. They were always hungry every day before. I think birds of a feather flock together. Maybe that senior is also a foodie. Shangguan Yingying had an excited smile on her face. She felt that her judgment was quite reasonable. Everyone looked at each other and then looked at Shangguan Yingying silently. What? Am I wrong? Shangguan Yingying felt a little guilty under everyone's gaze. Everyone looked at her and suddenly said in unison, "We also think that what you said is very reasonable." You scared me to death. Shangguan Yingying rolled her eyes. Then let's go back earlier. I wonder if Xiao Xuanzi and Xiao Hua are feeling better now? As usual, Bailey Hongzhuang left the pills that she had refined with the clan. Only then did everyone head towards the abandoned immortal forest again. As soon as they arrived, everyone saw Xiao Xuanzi's figure. Di Baichen sized up Xiao Xuanzi and said with a smile, It seems that your injuries have recovered well. Master. Xiao Xuanzi smiled faintly. My injuries are not serious. Don't be too casual. Don't move your arm casually. The injury is too serious. If you don't take good care of it, it will be troublesome if there is a chronic illness in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang warned. Just a moment ago she noticed that Xiao Xuanzi wanted to move his arm, so she specially reminded him. Xiao Xuanzi nodded slightly. I know. Where's Xiao Hua? Shengguan Yingying asked with a smile. Chapter 6395. Everyone walked into the courtyard. Xiao Hua was with Granny Hua. Seeing everyone return, the two of them were very happy. You're back. Granny Hua put down the herbs in her hand and smiled. Granny, we bought everything we could think of, but we don't know if we can succeed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and sat down beside Granny Hua. Last time you said you liked to eat pastries, so I bought some again. Good. Granny Hua looked kind. Don't worry. Although that old man likes to take advantage of others, it's not that easy to take advantage of us. Xiao Hua, you look much better. Shengguan Yingying looked at Little Flower. Although Little Flower still looked a little weak, she was much better than her previous pale appearance. Thank you for saving my life. Xiao Hua bowed sincerely, her eyes were filled with gratitude. If everyone didn't arrive in time, she would have lost her life. When Xiren smiled faintly and said, We are not the most important. There is someone you should thank properly. When he said that, a sly smile appeared in everyone's eyes. Xiao Hua didn't agree to Xiao Xuanzi's pursuit before, but after this incident, it could be said that a friend in need was a friend indeed. Xiao Xuanzi was willing to give up his life for Xiao Hua. If it was anyone else they would be touched, right? However, after hearing this, Xiao Hua's expression became complicated, and there was a hint of indescribable bitterness. Seeing that, everyone's heart slightly changed. Could it be that there was something they didn't know? They didn't ask further. Since it was difficult to say, it must be difficult to say. If they continued to ask, it wouldn't be good. There were still a few days before the market started, but it was said that the market was located in the center of the abandoned immortal forest. From where they were, it would take them 3 days to get there. Therefore, everyone had already started to prepare. This was the first lively event they encountered after coming to the abandoned immortal forest. Naturally, they couldn't miss it. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to go out to pick herbs, but unexpectedly saw Xiao Hua's figure. Xiao Hua, why aren't you resting? Why are you up so early? Hongzhuang, can I go with you to pick herbs? Little Blossom had a complicated expression on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to refuse. With Little Blossom's current physical condition, going out might put a burden on her injuries. However, after noticing her expression, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Okay. After agreeing, Bailey Hongzhuang changed her plan. She wouldn't go to a faraway place to gather herbs, but would gather herbs nearby. They were silent all the way. After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang said, Little Blossom, do you have something to tell me? Xiao Hua looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a complicated expression. Hongzhuang, ever since this incident, I noticed that Xiao Xuanzi's attitude has changed. His attitude changed? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. How did it change? He doesn't talk to me much now. I feel like he's intentionally avoiding me. Xiao Hua's face was troubled. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it carefully. Recently, she went out to cultivate with everyone during the day, so she wasn't too sure about Xiao Xuanzi and Xiao Hua's situation. Chapter 6396. When Xiao Hua was injured, they all saw how uncomfortable Xiao Xuanzi was. Perhaps the injuries on his body were nothing, but he couldn't protect the person he loved deeply. This feeling was very painful. Don't be fooled by Xiao Xuanzi's flirtatious appearance. He's actually very serious about you, so this incident gave him a big blow. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao Hua seriously and said, Don't think too much. He probably just needs some time. Xiao Hua nodded slightly. I hope so too. But I don't know why, but I have a vague feeling that he's getting farther and farther away from me. He's never been like this before. I feel a little nervous. Seeing the worry in Xiao Hua's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Linger was right. Xiao Xuanzi was in Xiao Hua's heart. At this moment, there was no need to ask whether she liked him or not. Her attitude had already expressed everything. Xiao Xuanzi's feelings for you were very clear on that day. Perhaps this incident really gave him a big blow, but I believe that as long as you two have feelings for each other, you won't be separated. I know that after this incident you probably want to agree to be with Xiao Xuanzi. But after such a long time, although you two haven't confirmed your identities, you haven't been separated, right? As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Little Blossom was slightly startled, and his dim eyes gradually reignited with brilliance. Hongzhuang, I think I understand. A smile appeared on Xiaohua's face. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. I didn't do anything. But I really hope that when we go to the realm of chaotic immortals, there will be a new member in our team. Hearing that, the smile on Xiaohua's face became gentler. The original distance between them was broken at this moment. She also opened her mouth. Actually, when I first met Xiao Xuanzi, I thought that I would definitely not be with him. He doesn't look serious at all and he doesn't cultivate properly. He's not my type at all. But after getting along with him for a long time, I realized that he only likes to joke, but he is actually very serious. I didn't think that something like this would happen this time. I also understand that his feelings have changed, but I feel very sad that he is avoiding me like this. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Think about it. Little Xuanzi likes you so much. He can't possibly hide from you all the time. I've always treated Xiao Xuanzi like this in the past. Will you guys dislike me? Little Blossom looked at Bailey Hongzhuang nervously. That's impossible. Actually, all of us have always liked you. If it wasn't for you constantly supervising Little Xuanzi, his strength wouldn't have improved so much. Not only that, because of you, Xiao Xuanzi spent a lot of time just to lose weight. Even Yen Che and the others admire his perseverance. Seeing that Little Flower was very interested in Xiao Xuanzi, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't mind chatting with her. After chatting for a while, Little Blossom was no longer as depressed as before. Instead, he made up his mind. She would wait for Xiao Xuanzi to figure everything out. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others packed up their things and followed behind the four seniors to the market. Chapter 6397. This was the group's first time passing through the abandoned immortal forest. Previously they were all near their residences. As they went deeper into the abandoned immortal forest, they realized how big the forest was. Previously, they had only been to 100th or even 1,000th of the abandoned immortal forest. Bailey Hongzhuang's harvest on the way was also very rich. Many immortal spirit grass could be seen everywhere on the side of the road. She picked some when she saw them on the way. Usually when she was refining pills, these herbs would always come. Moreover, most of these herbs were very helpful to them. Master, the abandoned immortal forest is so rich in herbs. Why didn't the immortal domain take the abandoned immortal forest into the domain of the immortal domain? Why did they give it up? Bailey Hongzhuang was confused. She knew that the cultivation resources of the immortal domain must be very plentiful. However, wasn't it strange that such a large forest was abandoned? Such a large forest, there must be many precious immortal herbs inside. Those people from the immortal domain didn't want to give up on this place. There were some reasons that forced them to do so. A trace of disdain appeared in Granny Hua's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at each other. They still didn't understand. Back then, the immortal domain did want to take over the abandoned immortal forest. However, there were still some exceptional experts in the forest. As long as they didn't agree, those guys couldn't enter. Those old guys from the immortal domain wanted to save face. Therefore, they named the forest the abandoned immortal forest. Naturally, the cultivators living here became abandoned people. Huoshukang explained. Hearing this, everyone finally understood. So there was a twist in the story. It seemed like the reason why the abandoned immortal forest was abandoned was not because it wasn't good. It was because they couldn't get it. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to what happened back then. Otherwise, the abandoned immortal forest would be gone. That would be really troublesome. Zhong Li Xiaoran sighed. Master, this means that there are many experts in the abandoned immortal forest? Mo Yunjua's eyes were filled with curiosity. Up until now, they hadn't seen many other people in the abandoned immortal forest. If they didn't know that there were people from the immortal region who had been capturing abandoned people in the vicinity, they wouldn't even be sure that there were other people living here. Of course there are experts and there are quite a few of them. Granny Hua smiled faintly. However, these old fellows have already seen through the world and are only willing to be ordinary people. You guys don't need to be too curious. There are definitely people living in the abandoned immortal forest. It was just that the area was too big, so everyone's living quarters were a little sparse. When we reach the market, you'll see the others. Yu Hong stroked his beard with a smile on his face. That's right. There are always a lot of people at the market. Zhong Limu smiled. After traveling for 3 days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally arrived at the market. From afar they could already hear the bustling noises in front of them. Immediately their eyes lit up, and a strong sense of excitement emerged in their eyes. We're here, we're here. Zhong Limu pointed to the front, his face full of anticipation. Chapter 6398. The tents in front of them looked very simple, but at a glance the road was very long. The lively conversations were simple and honest. It wasn't just the children, but even some of the elders were chatting happily. As a member of the abandoned immortal forest, they didn't usually see many people. It was only when the market was held that they had the opportunity to gather together. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly watched the scene in front of her. This place wasn't as prosperous as the Emperor Cloud City, but this market gave her an unprecedented feeling. Come, let's go set up our tents first. Yu Hong smiled faintly. If you little fellows want to wander around first, then go ahead and look around. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others weren't in a hurry to leave. Instead, they followed behind the 4 elders and chose a place to put down their things. Granny Hua, you're finally here. At that moment, a granny similar in age to Granny Hua walked over. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, her eyes lit up. Granny Hua, when did you find such a beautiful girl? Could she be your granddaughter? Granny Li, you must be joking. She is my disciple Hongzhuang. Granny Hua smiled and waved at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, come here. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and quickly walked over. This is Granny Li. Granny Li has a lot of precious immortal spirit herbs. If you need anything you can ask Granny Li. Greetings, Granny Li. Bailey Hongzhuang curtsied. Granny Li smiled and nodded. When I get closer, this girl is even more beautiful. Is she married? Coincidentally, Old Man Gu's grandson hasn't married yet. Ahem. Di Beichen coughed lightly. Unknowingly, he was already standing beside Bailey Hongzhuang. What a handsome child. Granny Li looked at Di Beichen in surprise. I haven't seen you in a while. Granny Hua, your place is very lively. Granny Hua shook her head helplessly. Granny Li, you are the most famous matchmaker in the abandoned immortal forest. However, you don't have to think about these two. They are a couple. I see. Granny Hua suddenly understood. Looking at it this way, they are a match made in heaven. Di Beichen quietly winked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and the latter couldn't help but laugh. While Granny Hua and Granny Li were talking, Yu Hong and the others were also talking with some old acquaintances. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others quietly looked at everything in front of them, only to discover the other side of the 4 seniors. Everyone was well aware of how terrifying their strength was. These elders might look ordinary and mediocre, but they might be hidden experts. Now they already knew how terrifying the abandoned immortal forest was. This wasn't an abandoned forest, but a forest that even the immortal domain couldn't obtain. Perhaps one of these people was a senior who had once made a name for himself in the immortal realm. Zhong Limu, what are you looking for? Shengguan Ying patted Zhong Limu's shoulder and asked. Zhong Limu was startled at first, but when he noticed that it was Shengguan Ying, he relaxed and said, Sister Ying, I'm just checking if that senior is here. Which senior? That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.